Hello, welcome. I'm Fires. If you're here from previous episodes, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to look at retexturing a weapon from an existing mod and how we go through the process of extracting the information and building our own mod, similar to what we've done with the vanilla weapons. If you head over to my Discord, you'll find some links for episode 4 under the DayZ tutorials, and you'll also find a link for Hero Tools or Micro Tools, whatever you want to call it. This is going to give you a link to a all-in-one installer for Hero Tools. Head there, download the files, install them, and the two programs we're interested in there is PBO Project and Extract PBO. Like I said, we're going to be looking at SNAFU Weapons as our mod of choice. The first thing we want to do is we want to set up our mod structure. So if you head over to your DayZ tools and open it up, and that will initiate our P drive. If you don't see a P drive, just click on the tools and select Mount Drive P. But we've already got that, so if we head into our P folder, P drive, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Fires SNAFU Retextures. Inside there, we're going to create a data folder, and we need a config.cpp. Again, if you head over to my Discord, under the DayZ tutorial section, episode 4, you'll see at the bottom config.cpp. So download that. I've already got a couple ready, but I'm going to copy that back to my P drive, SNAFU Retextures, paste it here, and I'm going to rename that to just config.cpp. This has the base of a mod, and we're going to update this as we go through it, so we can leave that open for now. The other thing we're going to need is the SNAFU Weapons Mod, and if you're not subscribed to it already, head over to Steam Workshop. Make sure you're logged in. If you've got it, it'll say, like I do, subscribed. If you don't, it'll say subscribe. Click on that and Steam should start downloading that. It may take a little while, but it's quite a popular mod, so as you can see, 1.2 million users. You probably already got it. Next, what we need to do is head over to DayZ Launcher, select the Mods tab. If you've just installed SNAFU Weapons, at the bottom it'll ask you if you want to load mod down here. You can do that if you wish. We're going to search for SNAFU Weapons, and in here click on the three dots, open a folder in Windows, and that'll take us to our workshop folder where all our mods are stored. And we need to open that up into add-ons, and it's SNAFU Guns 01 you need. As you can see, I've already got it opened up, but if you right click on the mod, the PBO that you want, you can open with, and you should see extract all PBO types. This is if you've set up your tools correctly. If not, you can drag it onto your extract PBO program and it'll run through. I've already got it, but it should run through and extract all the files. In here, we want to look in the data folder, and you can see that AWM into textures, and the body underscore code.paa is what we want. So we're going to copy that, head back to our folder we just created, and drop that in our data folder. We need to convert this into something that we can edit, so we can open that with Texture Viewer or Text View. Click on File, Save As, change it to .png. As you can see, now we have two versions of it. I'm going to delete the PAA, and I'm going to rename this to Fires underscore AWM co. It's important to keep the co on the end. That's something that the game recognizes, and we can close this down for now. I'm going to open this file in Photoshop. Whenever it's ready. And we're gonna go to folder, just drag that in there. So this is the texture that the weapon uses. There's a couple of ways you can go around this. Essentially what I'm looking at is using the green of the body as a texture and leaving all the grey parts, which are sort of metallic, as they are. So we're only applying the texture to the colour itself. So I need to try and select all the green parts. Now if I go to my quick selection tool and start clicking on the green, just getting all the green in nicely. And if you let go and you want to add more to it, hold on shift and just carry on. As you can see, once you get to certain parts, it's going to select all of the image, so it can be a bit tricky. So I'm going to deselect all that. I'm going to duplicate this layer, drag it onto the plus, and we can hide our bottom layer. I'm going to add a adjustment layer which is black and white, and I'm going to pump all the values up to max. The reason we're doing this is to allow ourselves to create a mask. As you can see now, it's starting to contrast the two different colors, which should make it easier to select them, but we're going to go a step further and we're going to add a threshold adjustment layer, and then we're going to play with the slider, and what we want is to just contrast the two colors completely. So that's all good. Should do for now. I'm going to select all three layers and merge layers. Then on the threshold layer, I'm going to select my quick selection tool and I'm going to start highlighting the white. Hold on shift if you let it go to carry on again. So we can select all these parts here, and that should be pretty much good to go. If we want to check, we can turn our layer below on, hide the threshold layer, and as you can see, it's done a pretty good job of selecting just the green bits. We can clean this up a bit, so make sure you got layer 1 selected, and I'm going to use my polygon lasso tool, and I'm just going to go in. I'll probably just add these, so I'm going to hold on shift when I click. I don't want that bit in there. And then double click to complete it. Anywhere else we need to do it. We could clean up these edges if we wanted to, but for the purpose of this, we're not going to go too crazy. I'm going to add this green part in here, so holding down shift and click in, and we'll add this in. So shift, click, and then select around it. You can either wait until you join it back up and see that little O to complete it, or you can double click on it. I'm going to deselect parts of this, so if I hold on Alt, it'll change to a minus, and then I can just do the same thing again, and then double click. See how it unselects part of the selection, but we're gonna use that, so we need that back in. Now if we hold Alt and mouse wheel, we'll zoom in and out, so that's pretty decent for what we want to do. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to fill that with black. This is going to be our mask, so we don't need that visible, and we don't need this threshold layer now. Next thing we're going to do is create a texture, so let's deselect that, create a new layer, shift backspace to fill it. Okay, the other thing you need to make sure of is that our colors are black and white, so over on the left side at the bottom of your toolbar, click the black and white squares, and that'll change your foreground to black, your background to white. So now what we can do is go to filter, render difference clouds, and we're going to do that again. So if you click on filter, it'll allow you to reapply what you just did at the top, or press Alt Control F, so we'll do that. Next thing we need to do now is invert this layer, so Control and I, and we're going to clean this up a little bit. So we're going to look at adding an adjustment layer, which is going to be levels. We need to play around with the level sliders to try and get some definition into the strokes. As you can see, it's giving us a sort of electricity effect, and That looks pretty good. You want a bit of fuzziness around it because that's going to give us our glow color. And next we're going to add another adjustment layer of solid color. We're going to choose something that's sort of electric-y. So let's go for that blue there. And if we select, actually we need to grab the 3 layers, so that's the color fill, the levels, and actually just before we do that, let's apply a hard light. Yeah, that looks okay. So apply a hard light, and then we're going to merge the 3 layers together, and now we can add this over ours. So we'll go for a hard light at the moment. As you can see, it's covering everything, and this is why we created our mask of the 2 colors when we contrasted them, so that we can separate them afterwards. So the layer we created will be filled with black. If you control and click on the thumbnail, it's going to select everything in there. On our texture layer now, we can click on this mask button, and it's only going to apply it to the colors that we wanted it to. And we can play around with the opacity a bit if you want. Maybe change our overlay. You can play around with these layers just to find something that's going to suit you. I think we'll stick with hard light. Don't worry too much about the detail in the texture, because the other textures are going to apply things like depth, shadowing and things like that. So we can save this now. So save and copy as, and we're just going to override our PNG layer. The other thing I wanted to show you was how you can determine which parts of the guns are what, because not all textures are going to be contrasted like this, where you're going to have a colored layer and a metallic color layer if you like. So if you go into my Discord, once again, in there you are going to find a UV map. So if you click on that, right click, copy image, and then in our Photoshop paste that over. If it's not obvious, we got different colored squares with numbers and letters in them. We can use this on a texture, and that's what we're going to do here. So, and we're going to apply it to all of it. This is just going to be something that'll become clear in a moment. So we're going to save a copy of that, and we'll call that fires AWM 1 co, and save that. Done with that for the time being. We can get rid of this window. Now if we look at SNAFU Weapons and how that is set up, we are going to build our config file. So if we go back to Daisy Launcher, under Mods, SNAFU Weapons, 3 dots, open Windows Explorer, understand, into the folder we extracted, and under Data, in the AWM folder, you'll see the config file for this particular gun. Open that with Notepad++. I'm going to drag the tab down and move to other view so we can compare the 2 together. So we are going to make our own version of this gun by creating our own config. First of all, we need to give our mod a name, so I'm going to call it Thias SNAFU Retexture, and we're going to need to copy this to our CFG mods class and our directory, our dir. We need to tell this our mod that SNAFU Weapons, and particularly the AWM, is a requirement for our mod in order to load the correct information to apply our stuff to. So this in CF patches is the mod in question. So we're going to copy that in our require add-on section. I'm going to put a comma on the end, drop it down, speech bubble, speech marks, just like that. We don't need any more commas on the end because we don't want it to continue reading the required add-ons, because that's the last one. and now we need to build our version of it. So we need to inherit from a class. If we look here, scroll down a bit, the actual gun in the game, this is the class name of it, but it's inheriting from SNAFU AWM base, which is this class above it. The difference being that this is a scope 0 and this is a scope 2. Scope 0 is a non-spawnable item. So what this base class is doing is it's setting the variables, are setting the parameters for the weapon. So we've got like display name, the model, what magazine, the size, weight, ammo, magazines, things like that. And what's happening down below is this is creating a new class which is inheriting all this information, and it's just giving it a different display name and different textures. So we are going to follow that in ours. So we need to create a new class name. Actually, before we do that, we need to inherit from AWM base. So we want all this information here, and we need to first call that base class in for us to edit it. So we're going to have in this top line AWM base. We're going to give ours a name, so I'm going to call it Thiers AWM, and then just after the colon we need to tell it what we're going to inherit from, which is the class above, so we can paste that there. In this selection here is where we want to override the textures. You can override anything in the base class in our texture and our class, sorry. So if you wanted to give it a different display name, different description, so we'll do that for the sake of it. We're going to copy these two lines and drop them in under scope 2. I'm going to give it a different description, so I'm going to select all of that, and I'm going to put AWM texture by Thiers, and we're going to change it to Thiers AWM 338. Now we need to tell what texture we want to use in this section below. So if we go into our folder we created with our images in there, we need to change these now into PAAs, and we can do that by opening with, choose another app. I've got text view there, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to scrap that. We're going to go to our tools, and we're going to click on the text view button, and then we can drag our images into there. Go into file, save as, and change the int to PAA. We're going to do that for both of the images. I'm going to create 2 of these just for the purpose of showing you something. So change that to PAA. And we have our 2 texture files there, good to go. So we need the path for the first one. So we're going to select all of that in file name in the address bar, put a slash in, and we're going to copy up to the backslash for the drive letter. Paste that in there. Because we want to create 2 different versions of this, I'm going to select this section here and enter on the end, paste it down, and we'll call this Thiers underscore UV map AWM, and we need to change the texture path once again, so we named it AWM1 underscore co, so we'll just drop that 1 on the end there. So that's pretty much it for our config. Just to clarify what we've done here, so we've given our mod a name, we've told the required add-ons that we need SNAFU AWM, which we've pulled from the actual PBO itself, which is what this mod is called. We've given it a CFG mods class name. In here you can add yourself as the author. We've called the class that we're going to be inheriting from. We've created a new class and what we're going to inherit from. We've given it a different display name, different description, and we've pointed to our texture, and the same again then for the other class. So we're going to save that. Don't need this for a moment. All that. All that. I'm going to close that down. Now we're going to use PBO project to pack our mod. PBO project. Now, if you haven't set this up yet, you want to go into your setup, and the first thing you're going to want to look at is the private key. In previous episodes, we talked about creating a new key. You can click on that and locate your buy private key. Other things to note here, you've got some completion sounds. So when a mod creates, if it's successful, you get one sound. When it fails, you'll get a different sound. I've changed mine. And these are the files that are going to be excluded. So you don't want things like PNGs, PSDs, anything that's going to bloat your mod and increase the file size. All we want is the mod structure, the config.cpp, the data folder with the image textures in. So we're okay on that front. So we click OK to that.
Great success.
So that's our mod packed. We didn't get any errors. We've got a nice little sound to say what happened. So we can close down this now, and what we need to do is add the mods to our server pack that we set up in the last episode with our server files. So we're going to need a copy of both mods in the server folder. So if you go to our PBO folder, in my case it's on my P drive, and I'm looking for the mod I created, which is SNAFU Retextures. I'm going to copy that in there. We're also going to need the SNAFU Weapons Mod in here as well. So if we open up our launcher, go to mods, search for SNAFU, click on the three dots and open an Explorer, and we're going to copy that into our Daisy server folder also. You're going to make sure that you have the right keys loaded. So if we open up SNAFU Weapons, into the keys folder, copy the key, and then in our server folder keys, we're going to paste that in here. I already have it in there. You need to make sure your key is in there as well. It should be from the last episode, and we need to make sure that yes, we need to edit our batch file now. So if we edit that, we need to add our mod and SNAFU Weapons to the list. So we're going to copy that. On the end, we're going to paste semicolon, and then we're going to go to our mod, copy that, and paste. No need for semicolon on the end. We'll save that, close this, and we run our batch file. If you've done everything correctly in the config CPP file, it should just load. If you get required add-ons error message, then you've messed up in the required add-ons section somewhere, so it might be worth going back in the video and double checking that. So that's all that set up. I'm going to reopen launcher, and under the mod section we need to load the mods that we need. If we look at servers and LAN, if you click on join, it's going to tell you the mods that are required. Now it's loading these ones from Steam, from our workshop folder, so that's fine, but we need to add our own. So close that, go to mods and add local mod in the folder where you stored your PBO. We're going to need to find ours, select folder, click load mod, and it'll add it in for us. And we're going to search for SNAFU because that's a requirement anyway, so we're just going to load that as well. And that should line up now with our server. So if we click on join, you can see everything's loaded. So we're going to set up DLCs and join. Wait for that to load up. This could take a little while. Here we are in game. So we're going to activate our tools by hitting the end key. Press Y to bring up our tools. click on Object Spawner, and we're going to find the files we created. So when I called mine Thighs AWM, so if I search for Thighs, it's going to come up. So this is the one we created with the texture, so we're going to spawn that on ourselves. And this is the one with the UV map, so we're going to spawn that on ourselves. Now if we inspect the weapons, you can see our texture is applied, and it's only applied to the sections that we wanted. You can go in and clean this up if you want, just to have extra control over where your textures are applied. And this is why we spawned this version in. So as you can see, the numbers and the letters and the colored squares are all displayed on the weapon, so you can use this as a reference to go back and forth between your textured version to find out what parts go where. So if we look at the back, you can see it's TA, TB, TC, DT, D. If we go back to the Photoshop version of this, so what we said is TA, TB, TC, TD, so which is here. So let's just select that for a moment. Now if we take the UV and the texture off, we know that this part here is going to be the part that relates to the weapon. TA, TB, TC, TD, TA, TB, TC, TD. So that's how you can use this UV map to figure out what parts of the weapon go where. Cool. That's pretty much it on that front. You can see that we've inherited correctly because we've inherited from the base class. We've changed the description name and the description, and you can still use the weapon as normal with your little texture on it. Cool. There's not much more to say on that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to click on the subscribe button, that'd be great. And if you want to let me know what episodes you want to see next, you can do so in the Discord, or you can comment on this video. Thanks for your time, thanks for watching, and catch you next time. Peace out.